It's my privilege and pleasure to introduce our final reader of the evening. Al Moritz is a poet, teacher, and scholar. His most recent book of poems, The Sentinel from House of Anansi, was the Canadian winner of the 2009 Griffin Poetry Prize. We've been privileged to have Al read here before at Live Words, and we're more privileged still to have him come back. Please welcome him to the stage.
Yes!
Thanks a lot.
Viva!
All right, I'm going to try to use this thing. Okay, there it is. I don't like these newfangled inventions. My poems, I'm just going to read some of the poems. They're very short poems. I'm going to read a few of the poems from the magazine, and they're not very conclusive. They put me up here last, but there's nothing very conclusive, unfortunately, about these poems. So I'll leave my couple of remarks till the end, and maybe that will be a better conclusion. So this poem is called Knowledge. So, you know, it doesn't tackle a very big subject. Knowledge. We covet the green stone, but stay erect, don't stoop. Our hands as nervous as the wind above the low breakers, unsteady monotony, their call and answer, fall and rush, hollowly to right, left, right. If taken up the stone, wet by the push and slide of water up the sand, soon will never have been as coated with thin light, it here and now is green.
Yeah!
So, which one was I going to put second? You know? Okay, here we go. A couple of sort of love poems. Hollows. Your nakedness to me is dark. To someone else, new daylight. Lit surface of a garden world, he walks all day, and in his feet feels the supporting pit, the inward, the full lightlessness, and passes in his walk the entrance, the hole of a garden snake, the door of a chipmunk's burrow by the roots of the yarrow. But I pass by nothing. It never appears to me, your nakedness. All's dark to me, a space your images walk, and at its base no base, and so no surface, and in it no within, no earth. You can't have what you want. You can't have what you want, she said, and took herself away. I filled with rage and hate and love, remaining love, became a hurt that spread and cankered. Then one day I woke, knowing that rage and hate were deep and long in me before her, and the songs, my book of airs to her, her knowledge, her desert, were right, and I deep down was wrong, was torn, but had no right to be, no right to pain, to cry out even in the crypt of my own heart.
Bravo! Bravo!
And this one is called A Rhythm. Thump, shuffle, whisper, whimper, thump. The water on the shore falls every day in almost the pattern of the footfalls of an old man who passes with a limp every day. Thump, shuffle, whisper, thump, and whimpers only inwardly how those who pass him find him every day the same, their sight too slow to see step by step his steps decay, which he knows feelingly, and how one day, when they are still here, he will not be. His whimper, though, is an error, as perfectly well he knows, perfectly well they see. And the final one is called The Forest, and it's a little poem of literary interpretation. There's been a rash of interpretations, like there's one coming out in film pretty soon of Little Red Riding Hood, you know, and that was based on a book, or partly stimulated by a book a couple of years ago, of reinterpreting and finding other versions of Little Red Riding Hood, and you know, so there's many of these kind of things. Anyway, this is my Little Red Riding Hood. The Forest. In the old story of Little Red Riding Hood, the wolf eats up in less than no time at all the failing grandmother who was so good. But a noble woodcutter lives at the forest's edge and watches over the girl, keeps watch on the wolf and the dark path when he can, when not getting his food by his simple, stubborn task. And now, never again will there be this lone worker and his wilderness. Forever now, only the cutter who means no good, living with a blade in great wolfless barrens at the edge of the last stand, the human wood. So those are my 5 little poems.
Bravo. Bravo.
I wanted to say thanks to Jim Johnstone and to Misunderstandings, like he said, to all his authors, and also to Blair Trewortha, who's helped him a lot. And I would imagine also that there are other people behind the scenes that I don't even know about who have helped Misunderstandings. But it's been one of those bright things on the scene, you know, adding effervescence, adding a sense of community, of a gathering place, and a festive and varied gathering place. And I'm very glad to see that it won't die, but will transform and will go on in the form of the Chapbook Press, which has actually already been going for 3 years or so and has produced some great work. Like I bought in early days of it a copy of a chapbook by Matt Rader, and that's now encompassed in Matt Rader's recent book From Anansi, you know, just to take one example. So I wanted to thank Misunderstandings and pay honor to it for that and for its for its continuing life. I think I remember reading an incident in the life of Wallace Stevens. As an old man one day, he got a package and he cut it open very carefully. It was from a small press publisher. It was sent to him, "Dear Mr. Stevens, here is an issue of a magazine and a few chapbooks, pamphlets we have published." And Stevens very carefully read them all, and he sat down and very carefully wrote the man a letter. And he said to him, "Thank you very much. Without you and people like you, there would be nothing to read." And, you know, I'd say the same to Jim. Wallace Stevens didn't think that you needed the small press to go buy a volume of Rimbaud or Keats. But still, he was serious and accurate. He wasn't exaggerating in what he said, because he knew that without that small press and without its equivalents, there wouldn't have been any Rimbaud or Keats, or at any rate, their writing would never have come to us. And so, thanks to Jim for Misunderstandings as a representative of the small press and as itself. Thanks a lot, Jim.
Thank you, Al, for those finally thought and spoken words. Well, this concludes the formal part of the evening. I'd like to ask you to have another round of applause for Misunderstandings and for all our readers this evening: Matthew Henderson, Rob Taylor, Sancho, Matt Laporte, Blaise Lawrence, Claire Caldwell, Robert Richardson, Paul Rich, Al Moritz. Thank you very much. And I guess we won't ever be doing this again, Jim, this specific thing, but we will, as Al said, we'll be having other launches and other events in the same spirit, and again, highlighting new writing and fresh writing and experienced writers who are experimenting and doing new work, and new writers we would otherwise never have found if we didn't find a way to publish them and give them a place to be heard and read. So, Live Words is going to take the summer off. We're going to pack it in for July and August, but we're coming back in the fall, and I'm very pleased that the first event we're going to hold with Live Words in September will be a Coach House Press Showcase. Later in the fall, we'll be having, yes indeed, a Cactus Press launch of new chapbooks, and a Baseline Press launch of new chapbooks. Baseline is a micropress from Windsor, Ontario. And in December, we look forward to having a wonderful holiday season event here, which will be focused on a chapbook anthology, a Live Words chapbook anthology. And Jim and I will be in touch with those of you, many of you who are here this evening, who have read here at Live Words, and we'll be asking for submissions. So look forward to that. Thank you very much for coming. Bless you all. Good evening. And you know what? I think there's more cheese and cake and there's more booze. So enjoy yourselves. Thank you so much.
Are you? Okay. Congratulations on the Trillium. That's amazing. And congratulated for the Lambert, but if you didn't, congratulations for that night too. It's great stuff. When did they come up with the decisions?
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.